Welcome to Raise the Anchor, the podcast that explores what happens when we stop drifting and start choosing. I'm your host, Melissa Burbridge, and each week we dive into real, raw stories of transformation, moments when people dared to raise the anchor and change course. Whether you're navigating chronic illness, burnout, big life pivots, or healing from the inside out, you'll find inspiration and truth here on Raise the Anchor. This is your space for honesty, hope, and the courage to begin again. Let's raise the anchor and set your course. Hello, Anchor Crew. We're back for another week of Raise the Anchor. Today, we're going to talk about failing forward. John Maxwell's theory on failing forward is based on the core idea that successful people aren't always those who avoid failure. They're the ones who learn to keep going after it. And it's one of my favorite subjects because it shows that super successful people have had to go through adversities, whether people realize it or not. There are going to be trials and tribulations. I know I'm using a lot of big words. I still am on my first coffee, but it's hyping me up because I love this subject so much. I myself have had some failures in the past, and in doing so, I could have given up. In fact, some people will say I gave up because I gave up my business, but I gave up my business to heal. It was causing a lot of stress on my family, and it's helped. I was going through massive burnouts. No matter what I did, I'm just bringing up some of my key points because I want to not go into a massive rant. I want to keep on track so that you get some value out of this episode. So there's been quite a few times that I've had failures and I've pushed forward. But we'll talk about my business. So with my business, there were a lot of trials, a lot of tribulations that led to burnout so bad that I was in the hospital for a few days. It takes a long time to recover from massive burnout. And I'm not saying burnt out because you've worked too many shifts as a nurse. I'm not saying burnout because you're like just your job. I mean like massive physical burnout where your body is so strung out. And a lot of nurses are burnt out, don't get me wrong, but it's not because I'm just needing a change from the job. It was because physically, mentally, and emotionally, my body could not handle any of that. I was, when I gave up the business, a full-time nurse. I was still trying to hang on to the little scraps of the business that I could because there was just, I was trying it to not have it be the business it originally was. So I wasn't wanting to do the social media, digital media. I was wanting to coach and create and help women make a change because that's what I was so passionate about. That's where Raise the Anchor originally was supposed to be. And that's what I'm trying to bring it back to because that is my passion. But I didn't have the energy to start a business up from the ground at that point because I built a business on doing social media, doing websites, helping people do different things. And I just kind of lost myself somewhere along the line. And I didn't feel like that was showing up for my clients as true as I could be. If I'm not passionate about the business, I'm not going to do the best job. You should always go after the person who's passionate, who lives, breathes, and dies what they're doing for you. And that's just not where I was in my business. So it was the wisest decision. I felt like a failure. I didn't want to talk about it for a long time. It actually kind of made me doubt myself. I needed to build that confidence back. And luckily, I had a couple of friends who were wanting to launch a podcast that I was able to go in and relearn that I can still do that stuff. I can still be passionate about that stuff. I just needed the time and break away from everything to be able to do that. Because I can tell you when I was coaching them, I had zero confidence. I know my stuff. I had helped other people launch podcasts, but I just didn't have confidence. And it took time, and I'm so forever grateful for those ladies who gave me back that piece of confidence that I am here to coach, I am here to mentor. I do it every day in my current job as a nurse manager. That is what I'm here to do. And that is what I want to hopefully instill in you guys as we go on this road. Because Raise the Anchor is here to stay. Raise the Anchor is going to morph more and more into other areas. I have a Healing My Way Forward on Instagram. That is my Instagram handle. Um, I'm going to be doing a retreat next year. If you follow along, you can follow on either of those platforms on YouTube. I have a weekly email that goes out, and that's where all of these details, because I am committed to helping other people raise, raise those anchors, raise, get rid of the stuff that you no longer need. So I love John Maxwell's Failing Forward, and I'm going to keep on track. So that's my story. Is I gave up my business and I felt like a failure. And now I have taken an extensive amount of time off from business, and I just put myself into work, slowly worked on myself, built that relationship back with my kids that I felt I was missing when I was working full time and trying to still run a full time business. So those are things that I've slowly brought back and made me realize that I wasn't a failure. I can do this. So those girls letting me help them with their podcasts gave me that little spark and that confidence back. And then I went to a retreat after I already made the decision that Raise the Anchor was going to come on. And that retreat ignited that spark. It created so many wonderful things that I was completely overwhelmed. Not gonna lie, I came home to, I called ChatGPT my boyfriend because he helps me a lot. Um, I came home and I was like spitting out all of these ideas, and I created a business proposal for the next few years because I know myself, when I'm passionate about something, I wholeheartedly commit and I dive in, and I don't want to go back to that burnout piece. So I want to slowly grow things. Although I think that is secretly kind of hindering me a little bit because I see the door. I see like that little door of what I can be helping, and I'm holding myself back. And that's what I'm trying to teach you not to do. So slowly, I'm going to get there. I wasn't planning on holding a retreat for a good couple of years, and here I am planning one because I have somebody else that can do some of the legwork that I wasn't wanting to do. So I am pairing up with a company to do the legwork because the retreat's going to be overseas. Um, but let's get back. Squirrel. If I say squirrel, that means I'm trying to bring myself back. Um, so it's very interesting when you think about people who are super successful and, you know, have failed. When you look at Oprah Winfrey, she didn't get her big start. Like, she was in TV and she was doing a lot of things, but she really didn't get her big start until later in life. And look at her. Everybody knows her name. Everybody respects her. Everybody wants to meet her. And whether or not you kind of like liked what she had to say, you know that she was impactful. You know that she's had those trials and tribulations, to be so wise to get where she is, and she's so inspiring. uh, there are so many people who are inspiring, but that's one person, you know, that didn't start until later in life. I think she was 45 before she really kind of got going. I'm 44, 43, 43. So maybe I'll be the next Oprah Winfrey with, you know, probably not. She's so inspiring. She's changed so many lives. Um, you also have like, it can be about parenting that you feel like you're a failure, you feel like you're not a good parent. So his theory, John Maxwell's theory with failing it forward, can be about that piece. You don't know how you're truly doing as a parent until later on. Usually it's other people kind of telling you how you're doing. I have always felt like a failure as a parent a lot of times. And then, you know, my kids are pretty sweet and pretty amazing. And I hear how wonderful and respectful they are from others. And my son's gotten a few awards for his sincerity, for his caregiving aspect. And then you know, like you've done something right with them, or else they wouldn't be that way. So, as a parent, if you're doubting yourself, talk to somebody, because chances are you're not doubting yourself. And the fact that you feel like you're doubting yourself only shows how good of a parent you are, because you're worried and concerned about that piece. So just talk. Communication is a big thing. It's a big thing that's been on my mind a lot lately, because healthcare doesn't seem to communicate well. Um, Partners don't necessarily communicate well, and you got to read between the lines. The communication goes a long way. But I want you to look at a part in you that feels like a failure. Take a step back and reflect and write down. So it's not personal, it's a process. Failure isn't personal, it's a process. So you need to see why you feel like that. Is it because you don't feel like you know that piece? Is it feel like you're seeing other people who are super successful doing the same thing and you feel like you should be there? The worst thing you can do to yourself, I keep hitting the microphone. The worst thing you can do to yourself is compare yourself to others. I know I've done that. I started a business when a few other people started their businesses, and their businesses are multi-million businesses. And I've always kind of been like, oh my God, like we all started, we all were having the same troubles. But there's different paths that we're meant to do, and those businesses weren't the same. So there's always going to be those trials and tribulations and things that happen. So comparing yourself to others, you're not seeing what's happening behind the scenes. You're not seeing the struggles that they may be having. You're not seeing, like, yes, they might be an overnight success today, but what's it going to be in the long run? Have they built that structure? Have they done all of the things? Or have they had trouble long before they met you and just finally things clicked? Um, or they're constantly in trouble and they're not doing as well, but they're projecting that they're doing as well. So there's a lot of things. So don't judge a book by its cover. Always. That's been a famous saying for years. Don't judge a book by its cover. But some things you can reflect on is, what's a failure I've been avoiding or carrying in myself? So if you journal, you can write that down and write that out. If you're not a journaler, you can just kind of slowly think about it, write it down, think about it, look at it, and feel it. Talk to other people if you need to. Google, just kind of see what you've been avoiding or carrying around with yourself. What did it actually teach me? So when you're working through those things, what I learned from my business that failed, I was carrying around the shame of needing to do it all. I was a perfectionist, needing everything to be perfect, wanting to expand and not being in an expansive area at that time, um, not wanting to spend more money because I didn't want to put financial stress on my family. There was like a lot of things that I was carrying and holding myself back. And once I actually gave up the business, I took a step back and I leaned into myself and I saw all of the things that I was avoiding to doing, and that the burnout was making me not be as productive as I should have been, because I should have been listening to my body a lot sooner, um, and realizing that I neglected myself that whole time to try and make something happen, when had I stepped back and listened to everything that was going on, I probably would have been farther along. I would have had the energy and resources to be able to handle things. So, listening to yourself, listening to your body, looking into what's going on when things are happening. I can tell you right now, I've held myself back a little bit because I am so passionate about wanting to do a million and one things. I've wanted to build my website from the ground up, and it's like a lot of techie things because I wanted to look a specific way. But I was not wanting to launch the podcast. I was not wanting to look into this retreat until this website was perfect. but I don't have the time right now because I'm in a busy season where my children is graduating, one's turning 16, it's summer, I'm busy at work. We have this measles outbreak and I'm the infection control lead at work. So there's like all of these things that can be time consuming. If I step back and need to do like 60, 70 hours to do this website the way I want to, I'm going to burn myself out and I'm going to be right back in that spot I was when I gave up my business. And that's not what I want. So you don't always need to have every duck lined up before you launch anything you're supposed to do. Those who tell you you have to have all of the perfect socials, the perfect website, you have to have like everything going, you don't. I'm launching this podcast. I'm slowly building things as we do it. And that's what it is. So it's either going to flop or it's going to be successful. But anything you commit to, stay committed. So I'm committed to giving you an episode every week. I have wet hair because I just got out of the shower, and I'm committed to giving you this episode this week, because if I don't record it this morning when my house is quiet, it's not going to get recorded. So just look at those little things and commit to yourself when you think you're going to do something. I want you also to ask yourself, how would moving forward with that lesson change my next step? So for me, moving forward and launching this podcast is giving me that hope that I can eventually get to where I want to. Having people reach out to me because of this podcast, because they're finally seeing and learning, is just amazing. It gives me the best feeling. It gives me the goosebumps all over that I am along the right track because they're telling me that it is helping them. Being able to line up guests that I didn't think I would be able to line up is also helping me know that this is a mission that people want. So all of those small things, getting more support that I didn't think I would have, I'm not going to cry. So ask yourself how moving forward with that lesson that we have been avoiding will help us grow. So I want you to take a step back, reflect on things that you feel like you're failing at, and see if there are actual failures or if they're lessons. So that is something else. I love John Maxwell. He's an amazing speaker, and I love his theory of failing forward. But I also like saying that it's not failures, it's a lesson that you've needed to learn to move forward. So you're never failing, you're always learning. So that's a little spin you can put on the failing forward. So the theory and the method are amazing, but try and take the failure word out so that psychologically, and I know I've lost a lot of people by saying that, psychologically, it can help you overcome it as well. So when you think that you're failing, think that you're learning a lesson for a reason, and that lesson is going to help you if you lean into it, move forward. If you don't lean into it, you can consider it a lesson learned in not going forward. So yeah, that is this week's episode. I hope it was very helpful. If there's a subject that you want me to talk about that you feel that I can help with, feel free to DM me on Healing My Way Forward on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm on YouTube as Raise the Anchor. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok as Raise the Anchor. I'm an open book. Sometimes a little too much, my husband would tell you. So feel free to reach out. And here's to smooth sailing. Here's to a good week. Here's to a good season. And I hope to chat with you soon.
Thanks for tuning in to Raise the Anchor. If today's episode spoke to you, share it with a friend or leave a review. It helps more people find their way to healing and hope. Follow along on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube for behind the scenes, extra content, and real life moments. And be sure to join the email list at linktree/Raise the Anchor so you never miss an episode. Until next time, here's to calm waters, steady winds, and the courage to chart your own course.